Welcome back, and by this point, you've got a set of working AWS accounts. You've configured the account security, added billing alarms, set up IAM and created an IAM admin user, and then completed all of that with multi-factor authentication. So far, the AWS access that we've experimented with has been using the console UI in a web browser. It is possible to access AWS using the command line or even within other applications using APIs or application programming interfaces. Authentication via the command line is not done via username, password and MFA. It's done using IAM access keys, and that's the subject of this lesson. So let's jump in and get started. Access keys are long-term credentials available within AWS. They're not the only type of long-term credential that you need to be aware of, and all long-term credentials are used with IAM users. If you're authenticating to AWS and you're doing so using an IAM user identity, then generally you'll either use a username and password when you're using the console UI, or access keys when you're using the command line interface. Now they're called long-term credentials because they don't change regularly or rotate. You, as the owner of the credentials, have to explicitly change them, for example, updating your password. Access keys in many ways are similar to the username and password that you've used to this point, but there are a number of crucial differences. An IAM user has one username and one password. It can't have any more. Now you can actually create IAM users which are only used for command line or API access, and for those you don't need to assign a password. So a password on an IAM user is actually optional. The important thing though is an IAM user can't have more than one username or one password. Now you can change the password, but it only ever has a maximum of one at a time. Now if I ever refer to credentials throughout this course, and a username and password is an example of a set of credentials, there is normally a public part and a private part to those credentials. With usernames and passwords, the username is the public part of those credentials and the password is private. You don't need to worry too much if somebody knows your username, but if they know your username and password in conjunction, then that's known as a credential leak and you're in trouble. An MFA is just another private part to your credentials. It makes it harder to leak the full credential set. The first difference with access keys is that an IAM user can have two sets, two access keys. It can have 0, 1 or 2, but never more. Access keys can be created, deleted, made inactive or made active. And logically, they default when they're created to be the active state. Now, like username and password credential sets, access keys are actually formed from two parts. The first part is the access key ID, and the second part is the secret access key. The access key ID looks something like this, and the secret access key, that's longer and more complex. When you create access keys, and I use that term to refer to both parts of the credentials, AWS provides both of these to you. So you're given both the access key ID and the secret access key when you create that set of credentials. Now, once you're initially provided with both the access key ID and the secret access key, from that point onward, there's no ability to get access again to the secret access key. AWS don't allow any future downloads of the secret access key part of a set of access keys. You can only ever see the access key ID. So it's especially important at that initial time when you're provided with both, you note down the secret access key and store it safely and securely. When you make a request to AWS using the command line interface, you use both of these parts, so the public part and the private part. Now at this stage you don't need to know the technical details, it's not required at an associate level. But if you're interested, these credentials are used to sign the request that you send to AWS. Because AWS keep the public part, they'll know when you're using the private part, so the secret access key, to sign the request. And because of that, they'll know that it's valid. Now, the access key ID in many ways is like an IAM username, and the secret access key is like a password. If you let anyone have access to the secret access key, then it can be used to act as that IAM user. So you need to be really sure that whenever you store the access key ID and the secret access key, you keep the secret access key safe and secure. Now, if you do misplace the secret access key, or you're concerned that your credentials have been leaked, then you can't change the secret access key. You need to delete the entire access key, so that's both parts, the access key ID and the secret access key, and then recreate it. And that will give you a brand new set of credentials. So a brand new access key ID and a brand new secret access key. Now, if you have any command line interfaces or applications which are configured to use access keys, and you make that set of credentials inactive or delete them, then the command line interface or application will stop working until you either make it active again or generate a new set and then update those command line interfaces or applications with the new details. If you ever hear the term rotating access keys, it simply means to create a brand new set and remove the old one. It's no more complex than that. That's why an IAM user can have two sets. Generally, if you're utilizing the first set, then to rotate them, you'll create a second set, update all of your applications and command line utilities to that new set, and then delete the old one. Now, with the exception of the account root user, which can also have access keys, although that's not recommended, IAM users are the only identity which uses access keys, so the only identity that uses long-term credentials. IAM roles don't use access keys, and I'll talk more about those in the IAM section of the course later on. For now, I just wanted to introduce the basics. It's security related, and I want you to understand how it works from the offset. Now that you've learned the theory of access keys, it's time to experiment. Now we're going to have a demo, and in that demo, we're going to create access keys in both the general AWS account and the production AWS account. Once you've created those access keys, I'll be showing you how to download and configure the AWS command line tools, and as part of that process, you'll be using these access keys and configuring the command line tools to be able to connect to both the general and the production AWS account. So at this point, that's everything you need to do. Go ahead, complete this lesson, and when you're ready, I'll see you in the next.